Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. Back from my first ever vacation week on the podcast, I'm your host, Andrew. And Joe, it's good to be back. The weather's quite a bit cooler up here than it was down in Florida last week. Holy crap.
I believe it, man. I believe it. It's good to have you back.
Thanks. It's good to be back. We had I think 3 days where the heat index was over 107, so
No
it
thanks.
was hot. Pound the fluids, pound the fluids, pound the fluids. That's all you can do. And don't try to completely drink around the world either.
Don't.
Since I did get back, I didn't get this pin this time. I got this pin years ago, but it's relevant. They do the Disney pin trading down there, and this is one that I will never trade. I don't care what anybody offers me. I did get a ton of new pins, though, of course, and Disney's it's always going to be a magical place, man. Watching both my wife and both my kids have their first ever trips down and just watching them have that first experience. It's unlike anything else. It really is. So hell of a trip, man. It is nice to be home though. Yesterday morning, waking up in my own bed, it felt great. And then it was horribly depressing because you're waking up in your own bed because the trip's over.
Right.
So what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I've got 2 hard Mountain Dews again because, boy, that week was awful on a baseball standpoint.
Yeah, I'm glad I was on vacation and not watching a damn minute of baseball.
So I've got the OG hard Mountain Dew.
All right.
And then I've got Live Wire as well, which Live Wire, I don't think you heard me last week. Live Wire basically tastes like Fanta. It's amazing and dangerous at the same time. So
yeah, it sounds dangerous.
This was an awful week of baseball. More on that later, but I don't know what to say, man.
It's all you can say sometimes. I got two different summer ales I'm going with tonight. First is going to be the Victory Summer Love. It's a golden ale, and then next I've got from Brooklyn Brewery their summer ale, which is a sunny pale ale. So those are my 2 summer themed beers because it is officially summertime and baseball is rolling into what can hopefully be a better month because it has not been great the last month and a half for Atlanta. Also, new hat for tonight. You know me, I love my pinstripes. New Marvel hat with the old school comic book design for the characters on the side. So it's nice. Figured it'd be nice to do that. We'll roll into it tonight. We just passed Lou Gehrig Day. Yearly tradition in baseball. I think one of the neatest days that baseball does, if we're being honest here. Every June 2nd, what can you say about Lou Gehrig besides him being one of the greatest guys to ever play the game? Set the original Iron Horse streak at 2,130 consecutive games that was unbroken until Cal Ripken broke it in 95. Lifetime OPS of 1.080, which was third all-time before Babe Ruth and Ted Williams. I have not checked the updated numbers ever since they added the Negro League records finally into the record books, which we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. He at the time owned 3 of the 6 best RBI producing seasons of all time. 185 and 31, 173 and 27, and 1930. According to Baseball Reference, his WAR was at 113.8, best ever by a primary first baseman, ahead of Pujols at 101.5. His 7 best seasons, WAR of 67.7. Pujols' best were 61.7, just to put that in perspective. He hit 23 grand slams, second most behind Alex Rodriguez, 400-plus total bases in 5 different seasons, and there are only 6 other players that have recorded more than 1 season with 400-plus total bases. And the last time that happened was 2001, when it was Barry Bonds, Luis Gonzalez, Todd Helton, and Sammy Sosa hitting that. He had 7 different seasons where he had 200-plus hits and 100-plus walks. A career 340 average with a 632 slugging in the regular season, and a quote-unquote mere 361 average with a 731 slugging as well. So, a hell of a career. June 2nd was chosen because that's the day in 1925 that he began his streak. It's also the day he passed away in 1941 when he was 37, when he died tragically from ALS. also called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is better known as Lou Gehrig's disease. So MLB still uses the day every year to help raise money and awareness for research for ALS. Every team had a representative who was picked based on personal connection to ALS, their support of the ALS community, or a symbolic connection to Lou Gehrig by either their passion for the game, their character, unique statistical connection. Joe, I'm going to let you roll kind of into the bring out the good, because I know this is something that they do every year with obvious shirts that you and I both love. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my shirt. I think it's in the laundry, but take it away, man.
Yeah, Joe from Obvious Shirts is not only is he did he have a great mind and a great idea to make the company, but the man is a great humanitarian. With many things, he's done fundraising out of the shirt sales of shirts. This year, every year he does with ALS, they do a end ALS or something to that effect on a shirt. I think last year, and for Lou or something like that, in every team's colors. And 100% of the proceeds goes to Project Main Street, which works on ALS research and things like that, and treatment, research into treatment and all those things. Boog Shambi is kind of who obviously is the head play-by-play guy for the Cubs with Marquee, is the connection there between him and Joe, who make that happen every year. And Project Main Street is something I think Boog is extremely passionate about, and that's where that developed. But yeah, it's a wonderful thing that he does, where there's a lot of different things that happen, and he is there to answer the bell. It's really quite remarkable what he does.
Yeah, it's a special day every year. For Lou Gehrig Day, they do a great job, I think, with all the ceremony and the presentations that they do around the league. I like the number 4 patches that they of course, in the Yankees color and whatnot. I think that looks great every year. It's always a good time. MLB this is one celebration day that I've always thought they do right. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think they always do a good job with this, and making that special for the league. The other thing that they've done, with Sarah Langs, who is S Langs on Sports on Twitter, she is someone who suffers from ALS, but she's a huge baseball stat nerd, and she's on TV all over the place now. I think on MLB Network some, and things, and she's just a great wealth of knowledge and information on the game, and to really be able to highlight that has been really neat over the last couple of years. Yeah.
Whoops! Apparently, I grabbed one of the wrong beers.
You grabbed 3.
Oh, I grabbed all the wrong beers.
Look at that.
That's nothing new. Let's swap them out
said
here.
Summer Shandy. I delivered Summer Shandy.
My wife is the greatest as always. These are the summer shandies. Oh, it's 3 different. Okay, hold on. Let's reset back to what am I drinking, because I'm an idiot. Grabbed the wrong beers. I just saw summer on the label. It didn't look for the shandy side, because the mix of 6-pack is great. So we're gonna open it. We're gonna open it up with the Wine and Kugel Summer Shandy. Long time standard of any summer beers. Then after that, we are going to go to the Spotzel Brewery Shiner Lemonade Shandy, which I feel like, didn't Jason have that one a couple weeks ago, maybe?
Maybe.
And then a Summer Pils Shandy from Breckenridge. So, yeah, all in on the summer. Love it. Just a couple ALS facts here that I pulled up. It's a progressive neurodegenerative disease. It attacks nerve cells and pathways in the brain and spinal cord, and it's most prevalent adult onset progressive motor neuron disease. It affects roughly 30,000 people in the U.S. and only about 500,000 worldwide. So, because there aren't a ton of people on it, there isn't a ton of research being put into finding new medication to treat it, discovering the root cause, things like that. So it's another reason why Lou Gehrig Day is so huge for helping to raise awareness and money for research purposes. There's no cure currently. There's really no effective treatments to stop the progression. There's treatments that will slow the progression, but will not stop it. It's the prognosis is the same terminal prognosis that Lou would have been given 80 plus years ago. Essentially, it causes progressive degeneration of motor neurons, which causes muscle weakness and atrophy. And, the biggest thing that researchers are trying to find is to understand the biology of it and how to develop the effective therapies to treat it. And it's pretty much, it's not, some diseases might affect some portions of the population more than others. ALS doesn't really care who you are or what you are. It doesn't care if your gender, your race, none of that. It pretty much affects everybody equally. And the number of cases is rising. And the biggest, probably the hardest thing for people with ALS is the treatments that are out there are extremely expensive. So the financial burden put on the families is pretty significant. So good on MLB to do this every year. It's it's a day I enjoy seeing. Lou Gehrig was an amazing player. Anytime you have the opportunity, pull up the recording of his final speech at Yankee Stadium. If it doesn't bring chills down your spine and give you goosebumps, I don't know what will. All right, so let's move on to happier topics, something that came out right after I hopped off last week. Angel is finally gone. He is retiring effective immediately. I guess somebody finally pointed out to him that he is a shitty, horrible umpire and needs to go. And Joe, I've got a video that I saw on the internet earlier that I think would be a perfect one to just to show some career highlights from Angels. Give me one second.
Highlights, huh?
Exactly, highlights.
Somebody found them. That's pretty remarkable.
Just a bit outside there. Just a bit outside there. Oh wait. Oh, the audio's off. There you go.
My goodness. Whoa. 2-2. You have got to be kidding me.
Here comes. Called strike three. And Schwarber is thrown out of the game, and he had zero issue with getting thrown out.
Got him, strike three.
2020 season over the COVID concerns.
But it gives you that edge. Wow. I mean, 3-2 pitch. Let's low it in. Ball.
Oh, they said he went around.
Uh-oh. He's going to be out of this game if he keeps this up. He is out of this game.
I have a feeling nobody's really going to miss old Angel now that he's gone. Not one damn bit.
Yeah, now it just elevates CB Buckner or somebody else into that role. So
Laz
Diaz, yeah.
There are a couple really bad ones, but yeah, I think for me currently it's Laz is the guy I'll be picking on. Oh man, I can't stand Harper, and I think that check swing strike three was complete crap.
Oh yeah.
And the funny thing is, you could make a video 3 times as long as that with horrible calls he's missed. I mean, you can go back to the ALCS game between the Red Sox and the Yankees where he blew 3 calls at first base that all got overturned on challenges.
I think so. I think you're right there.
Just awful. How the guys held on to a job for this long is just nuts. Absolutely nuts. So, congratulations, baseball. The worst umpire in the game is gone. Let's not use that as a reason, though, to not bring up the ball strike challenge system from the minors. That should still come up yesterday, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so let's roll it into fantasy, Joe. It was a good week last week for me. I'm sorry that I smashed you in so badly when I was hardly paying attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely not what I was expecting or hoping for. I thought you being away would help me, and it certainly did not. So,
yeah, it was 18-7 last week. Me beating you, and then looking around the league. Ron lost a narrow one to Todd. Todd won 15-12, and then Tim beat Jason down pretty good, 15-9. So that bumps Jason down into 5th place. Standings after the week, I'm still leading the way, 136, 96, and 20. Let me see here. Sorry, I thought I had the whole thing up, but I didn't. My bad. Oh my God. Okay, so Todd's 18 back. You're at 21.5 back. Tim's at 22.5 back. Jason's at 26 back, and Ron is sitting comfortably in the basement at 32 games back. Joe, you are once again on pace to lead the league in moves. I think even if you stop making moves for the rest of the year, as you have made 48 of them so far. So congratulations there.
Look, man, you're going to give me the moves. I'm going to make them. I mean, what the heck?
Hey, what have you have to lose at this point?
Well, I mean, yeah, and I think what's I think helpful is that sometimes you're just like, you know what, this guy's down. You know, somebody else is hitting a lot better, and I want to win. So,
Yeah,
hey, if you're not playing to win, what the hell are you playing for?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, with Acuna going down, I did pick up Duran out of Boston, and he had a pretty good week for me last week. I didn't have a good day today, 1-0-for-5 today, but last week he didn't play too bad for me. Grabbed me a homer, some RBIs. It had limited action, but no, I'm sorry. I was looking at Hae-Sung Kim. Excuse me. No, he had. Oh no, he still hit 185. Never mind. But still, he's picking up singles and doubles for me, getting those extra base hits, getting a couple RBIs here and there. I know he's been a little streaky to start the year. He is going to strike out a fair amount, but you know, I needed a little boost with Acuna out and Trout out because my outfield is now. So, Joe, I'm at the point where I can't play Kyle Schwarber in the utility role. I had to move him back into outfield. Thank God he isn't contributing fielding stats to me. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see Riley starting to hit again. He's starting to wake up. He went 333 last week, so hopefully he can help get the rest of Atlanta's lineup going for me because it has not been great. But yeah, it was a pretty good all around week for me. Honestly, though, it was pretty close in a lot of categories. You know, singles was a toss up. Stolen bases was a toss up. Strikeouts on the hitting side and pitching side were both toss-ups. I mean, this week, Joe, a couple things break one way or the other. That score could have either been a tie or a complete reversal.
Yeah, I mean, it would have helped if I had, you know, started Steele at the beginning of the week and not benched him. And Shota finally looked human after getting 10 days off because of all the crappy weather in the Lou. You know, it really messed things up, but hey, you know, it's baseball. It's the way it goes. And, you know, I'll just have to beat you next time. That's all there is to it.
It would not shock me if you do beat me next time. Let me see. Our next matchup for you and I is not that far down the road, if I remember right. About 5 weeks, week 14, I think.
Let's just say this. I'd be doing a lot worse if I had anybody on the Cubs in my offensive lineup.
Right? Yeah, you're not wrong about that. You are not wrong about that in the very least. It's been a little.
I mean, you know, it's bad when I considered cutting Dansby.
Oof. Yeah.
It's bad, man. So look, it's the way it goes. But hopefully this week is better for fantasy and for the Cubs. So,
man, our teams in general. So, 2 injuries that I saw came down earlier today. Uric Whitty of the Astros, he's expected to go for Tommy John. I think you said he was waiting. He was going to maybe look at a second opinion, but it seems Tommy John's pretty likely.
I had heard that he was going to a second specialist just to confirm it. Is what it sounded like.
Okay.
And to see what the path was. Wouldn't surprise me, obviously, if they go that route with the way that the Astros have had all sorts of issues all over the place this year from a pitching standpoint. So,
and then the Giants put Blake Snell on the 15-day IL with a groin injury because, you know, it's very easy to rush yourself back in when you skip all of spring training holding out. So And let's be realistic. Snell has not really settled in at all this year. He has not pitched well, I think, for the entire season.
Well, it's hard to settle in when your first live hitting is in a game that matters. That certainly doesn't help because you're trying to adjust on the fly. You almost want to. Before this happened, you almost thought the Giants might phantom IL him just to get him into the minors to work out a little bit, because things just weren't clicking from the start. And Snell's a guy who obviously has his control problems, but the good parts of Snell's game just never got off the ground this year so far, and that's just going to continue, I think.
Yeah, I mean, people aren't chasing at junk nearly as much as they did last year. That's the biggest reason why he's been far less effective, if you ask me. I mean,
I think it's probably fair. Players are a lot more selective than they used to be.
Yeah, well, sometimes, and then sometimes
not everybody is Javi Baez. So,
how'd you know I was going to say pull a Javi Baez and swing at a ball that bounced before it hit home plate?
What can I say? I know you well.
Hey, and he makes it so damn easy. I mean, come on, dude. Jesus, Javi. Yeah, so let's see. I'm just looking up. Yeah, so far, 6 starts, 0-3, 9.51 ERA. That was after signing a 2-year, $62 million deal with them as a free agent.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He makes Taiwan Walker look like an ace.
Dude, you're not wrong. And Phillies fans, I do feel for you. I absolutely do feel for you because they really screwed up the rotation, pulling Turnbull out and putting Walker in when Turnbull was pitching so well. And now Turnbull's in a funk because you broke him out of his routine. Good job. Way to go.
I mean, he wasn't so bad the other night when Ranger got knocked out. He came in and was pretty solid for him most of that game Saturday night. But before that, yeah, he had been a little bit up and down in the bullpen role, which is to be expected when you're messing with players like that. The fact that the 5th starter is their biggest question mark right now, and that's really your only question mark.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
I'd be happy to sit in that position right now. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. I'm not taking anything away. I'm not trying to take anything away. It's just as you remember from the group chat, we all thought it was idiotic that the Phillies did it, and none of us are surprised to see it. This is the end result.
Yeah, it's really a shame too, because I mean, as good as the pitching has been, every time Walker's on the mound, the offense doesn't score right away. Mm-hmm. Every other starter, the Phillies score first, and that obviously sets them up for a lot of success. So, it's obvious that the players have a different mentality when he's on the mound because they know they're going to be playing from behind from the get-go.
Yeah.
I was listening to PHLY with the All City Network. That's the Philly folks, and they cover the Phillies and Eagles and whatnot. And they were talking about how his splitter is just not diving the way it should be. He's throwing it high and then it's breaking middle, and that's a recipe for disaster.
I can tell you from experience throwing a splitter, 2 problems. He's not getting deep enough on it. He's not getting a deep enough grip on the ball, and he's not snapping the elbow and the wrist hard enough to get enough top rotation. Because when I used to throw that, if I wasn't getting enough of it, especially that elbow snap, it doesn't spin enough, and it just you can golf it. So
yeah, that and his sinker have not been good, but the splitter's been the real detriment for him. So I mean, if he can fix that, then that would certainly help. But I just feel like you almost want to not necessarily send him down, but just maybe skip the next start and have him do a bullpen session and kind of see what happens. Because, I mean, clearly starting every 5th day is not working for him.
Yeah, agreed. Looking back at Snell right now, Joe, He's coming off a 6 WAR season, and he's down at negative 1.1 at this time. His whip is almost at 2 at 1.94. He's only gotten through 23 and 2/3 innings total, 31 strikeouts, 14 walks. The K to walk is roughly where it was last year at 2.2. But, that's not going to get it done by any stretch of the imagination. He's only getting maybe 85 pitches a start right now. He's averaging almost 22 pitches an inning. I mean, the strikeout per 9, it's roughly where it was last year. He's 11.7 last year. He's at 11.8 right now. But, it's just not – he's played with fire for too long with his walks and with allowing hits and then hoping he can mow down the side when the bases are loaded, and it's catching up with him.
I mean, all I can say is it's a lot different when your offense includes Machado, Tatis, Soto for part of the year last year. Like, it's a lot different when that's your offense, and your offense now is Matt Chapman and Crawford and some guys who maybe aren't as consistent. But that's obviously a big reason why he had some success last year, because you're going to win more games with an offense like that.
Also true.
So, I mean, it's something that doesn't disappoint us or shock any of us, I don't think, based on knowing how much time it takes to prepare for the season. And, hopefully this is a wake-up call to anybody else in free agency that you don't want to spend your time waiting for a club.
Yep, fire Scott Boras. Note here from Patrick: some cabbage. Turnbull may start on Saturday, so
good.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, even if the Phillies go to a 6-man for a while just to give Walker a little extra rest between starts, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I've wondered for a few years now why MLB clubs don't, especially when they're in these long stretches, why they don't utilize a 6-man rotation to give the starters an extra day. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where you kind of think about it, and I think I had before the season started, there was on MLB Network Radio, they were talking about that particular thing, and he's like, I would rather have 26 good starts than 32 starts where you're burnt out by late September.
Exactly.
And there is some validity to that. Probably, you never know. I think so many times you have, you're so, I think, maybe antiquated or stuck in a construct for how pitching should be done. And I mean, I don't see any reason why a 6-man would be a bad idea other than changing habits for guys who have been, it's probably something that you would want to introduce, Atlantic League, single A, double A, to kind of see how developing pitchers in that mindset works.
Yeah.
I think trying to change MLB guys who have been doing it for a while, that's probably not a good idea. I think the place to try to start this kind of process would be down in the minors.
Yep. Hit them while they're young.
Yep.
Pat also noted it's going to be if Ranger is unable to go. So we'll see.
Yeah, I didn't see anything yet on him yet, so I don't know if anybody else has, but that was a scary looking.
Yeah,
that was not pleasant.
I pulled the clip, and when I saw it, I immediately winced. You never want to see that. You don't want to see good pitchers go down. The game's better when the best guys are playing.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, Joe, do you feel like it's time for you to rant and rave a little bit?
Sure, why not? Look, you wanted me to talk about Cubs or?
Here, one more note from Patrick. Bruised hand swelling is down, throwing a bullpen. Okay, so they're going to see how he does in the bullpen. Honestly, even if he goes, I wouldn't be shocked if Turnbull will be on the immediate horn if they need to pull him out early.
Right.
It's June. It's okay to not run Ranger 7 innings if it's not all there. So, all right. So, rant and rave away, Joe.
Sure. We'll do some read the room here real quick, and that'll segue pretty nicely into the Cubs last week. So, off baseball topic for a minute, but WNBA players who are being really stupid with Caitlin Clark right now and doing the hard fouls. I'm not a huge Caitlin Clark fan. I'm not a WNBA fan by any means, but don't bite the hand that feeds you. The only reason you're relevant right now is because of this girl. So, for God's sakes, like, yeah, be competitive. Sure, maybe play a little more aggressive defense, but don't do cheap shots.
Yeah.
The only reason you're flying charter is because of her. The only reason you're relevant is because of her. The only reason ticket sales are up is because of her. Stop it.
I might argue Brittany Griner is more the reason for the charter flights, but point still stands.
I mean, a lot more of the focus is on the league now, and a lot of that is because of Caitlin Clark, and it's hard to deny that because even with Brittany Griner, nobody was really talking about it, at least before. So that just bugs me. Again, I'm not a WNBA fan, but like, it's just not smart business.
No, it's dumb as hell.
You know, your league is relevant because of it. Stop drawing extra attention to yourself that, you know, isn't really necessary. You know, you need all the positive energy you can get, and to do that just brings negative attention to yourself and your team, and it just looks childish. It's stupid.
Well, and that freaking hit she took that looked more like it belonged on the freaking ice rink playing hockey than it ever did. Like even back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when basketball games basically looked like hockey games on parquet floor.
Yeah.
That shit wouldn't have flown then, and even if it had, it would have started an immediate, benches clearing brawl from both teams. So
yeah.
If we're trying to stay away from that, let's not make actions that will lead back to it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do it, maybe make it an obvious basketball play and not just a blatant cheap shot. Like, if you're going to pull something like that, make it an obvious in-game play that people can say, oh, maybe it was just incidental. Maybe it wasn't.
I will say this. After it happened, I was like, no foul was called. Was Angel Hernandez hired as a WNBA ref? Because that's the only way that should have gotten missed.
Yeah. The other thing on the read the room before we kind of segue into the Cubs is TV announcers. There's a ton of TV announcers who they're not giving the big moments the energy they deserve. And particularly, I've noticed this a lot with the Oakland A's, where there's long, home runs that are obvious home runs, and it's to take the lead, and you can't tell it's a big moment because the commentator's not putting that life and energy into it. John Shambi was the same way for a couple of years with the Cubs, where Cubs fans were like, dude, it's a home network. I know you're a national radio guy, but like, this is your home network. Like,
get excited.
Liven it up a little bit.
Why do you think I love Atlanta's hiring of Brandon Gowden last year? He is awesome. And when you put him together with Jeff Francoeur, oh my God.
Yeah. I just wish that you could tell it's a home team's announcer. And in some cases you can't, but particularly I've noticed from what I've seen recently is Oakland. There was one that was like, a game-changing home run, and then there was one that was obviously gone. It hit off the scoreboard, and it sounded like it was just getting into the basket at Wrigley.
Oh, come on.
Like they weren't – it was clearly gone. Like, it wasn't like it's got a chance. This thing was gone. It hit the scoreboard as she was finishing the sentence, and you're just like, that was clearly a home run the minute it left the bat, and you're acting as if it was a single down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, get a little excited. Enjoy the game you're watching. Come on.
Yeah. I want to be able to, and as much as, I sometimes don't like the Nationals announcers, and my father-in-law both don't really care for them because they're a little too homerish. At the same time, if you're the home team's announcers, be a little homerish so I know that you care. Especially if I'm a fan of that team, like, I want to know that you give a shit.
Like, here's where I'm at with that, because us growing up in this area, if you're playing against the Phillies, you had to watch it on Comcast. It wasn't available anywhere else. It was before streaming became big, and I hated it when Atlanta played the Phillies because I hated listening to the Comcast announcers because they were homers. But you know what? That's okay. you should hate listening to your opposing teams and broadcasters because they should be homerish. Like that's the whole purpose of having a home broadcast team.
Right.
I can't.
Like, just liven it up a little bit. Good Lord.
It's the thing that drives me nuts. It's like these guys are getting so far. It's like somebody's holding a gun to them and saying, "Now you can't be too much for us. You have to show spotlight to both." No, this isn't an ESPN Sunday Night Baseball terrible broadcast. This isn't a stupid Apple TV Plus broadcast. No, you are literally pay your position. Your check comes from the team. It is okay to be a little homerish towards the team. It's not going to ruin anything. In fact, it will only make it better. And I understand in the case of Oakland, you haven't had a lot of great baseball to watch over the last couple of years. But when something like that happens, be excited.
I mean, they're performing above expectations at this point.
Yeah.
And it should feel like they are when you're watching the game, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a little stupid to me.
It is. No arguments.
It's crazy. More of these goofy weather decisions to kind of wrap it up and go into the Cubs. They played a game Saturday night, and it was raining like crazy at Wrigley when Steele was pitching the first couple of innings, and then it finally went away. But, like, why are we playing in a downpour? Why? What's the point of that? The game didn't get over until midnight, after midnight. And then you're playing a 120 game Chicago time the next day to wrap up the series. It doesn't make any sense.
And isn't that
Like,
one week
after? It's going to run long. Like, it's one thing if you have the Sunday night baseball game, at least that makes a little bit of sense. But if you have a day game and you're not starting the game until 9 o'clock, that's a problem. I don't understand the pressure to get these games in, and we wouldn't have this situation if we didn't change the schedule so you play every stinking team.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. And it's interdivisional games, too, the last couple of weeks that have really been impacted by this. Most everybody's had interdivisional matchups for the last couple of weeks, and you've had multiple series that have been screwed up. I don't understand the mentality of MLB and the decisions that they make, and it baffles me. And it's affected the Cubs 3 times in the last week. You know, the Friday night game against St. Louis, it wasn't raining nearly as bad as Sunday night, and they didn't play it. And then Sunday night, they delay the game in a freaking downpour where it's rushing down the steps like the freaking Titanic, and we play the damn baseball game. And it doesn't get over until after midnight, and both teams had to travel. It made no sense.
That's the one you shared the video of, right?
Yeah.
We should have canceled that.
If both teams have to travel, why the hell are we making this, or why the hell are we playing this game just because ESPN has it? It doesn't make any sense.
No, that should have been canceled.
Right.
Anytime you see water running down the steps like that, I don't care how good the drainage is in the outfield. I don't care how quickly you got the tarp over the infield dirt. That field's going to be a mess.
Yeah, and it really screwed up a lot of things for them in the last week. Not that they were playing well before that, but like the weather decisions to me don't make a ton of sense. And I've had to see it firsthand for the last 10 days, but every other team has been affected similarly, where games have been played and when they had no business being played.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that this year. It needs to stop.
Yeah.
That game was in St. Louis, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, I know St. Louis's grass, it's Bermuda. So Bermuda is pretty tolerant of heavy rain, but it's your drainage is only going to be so much for what the stadium itself can handle and pull away. I mean, there aren't many stadiums that can have that kind of a downpour and still have a decent playing field. I mean, the only 2 I can immediately think of is Philadelphia, which had state-of-the-art drainage put in when they installed it.
Yeah.
And it's still one of the best draining fields today. And Atlanta, and primarily for Atlanta, it's because they installed a grass that literally can spend 200 days underwater and survive.
Right.
So Bermuda's not going to survive water like that. So
No, it made no sense. It really didn't. Like we can't be talking about player safety out of one side of our mouth and then making decisions that are completely contrary to that out of the other side. It just doesn't compute.
all I'm going to say is follow the dollar.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, can we please just stop making bad decisions, MLB?
Rob Manfred retirement countdown says.
Yeah. So dovetailing into the Cubs, since I mentioned how poorly they've played the last couple of weeks here, they have now lost 6 straight series after this past week.
Fuck.
Yeah. And they have lost at least one series to everybody in their division over the last couple of weeks too. So
what you're saying is the Cubs are not going to make the hot list this week or next week or last week.
They haven't made the hot list in a little more than a month. So, look, this has just been pathetic, and the offense has been awful. They lost 3 of 4 this week in Milwaukee, and they lost 2 of 3 at home against Cincinnati without Joey Votto.
Because that's usually the reason for that.
Yeah. To give you an idea of just how bad the offense has been, from May 1st to June 1st, their batting average with runners in scoring position, 186. It has been just the entire team slumped at the same time, which is just impossible to fathom how that happened. It's just unbelievable. The offense is, like I said, has been terrible. I think I used the word abysmal in the group chat the other day because that was the best word I could find to describe it. And your pitching, the starting pitching, which has been pretty good for you and kept you in a lot of games, this last week, that didn't happen. The last 10 days or so, that didn't really happen. Steele had an awful start. Shota finally looked human after having 10 days off and pitching pretty badly. Got rocked for, I think, 7 runs in that game last week. So you had a bad week from your pitching, and then when your offense isn't hitting, well, that's a recipe for disaster and a recipe for being currently 3rd in the division, probably close to being 4th in the division if things don't turn around real quick. Just to get, again, to kind of quantify this for you, because we've talked a bit about how bad the White Sox are. Since April 27th, the White Sox are 11-23. The Cubs are 12-22.
Wow.
Like it is a bad time to be a Chicago fan right now.
So basically, Chicago is where baseball goes to die right now.
Right. Yeah, right now. It's and the best thing about that is those 2 teams are playing each other the next 2 days.
Oh God! So somebody has to win.
Right. Somebody has to win.
It's going to be a split. That's the only way this can go. It's got to be a split.
Got to be. So, yeah, the offense has been bad. The defense has been uncharacteristically bad. I mean, Swanson has looked not worth the money right now so far this year. He's made a lot of uncharacteristic errors. And he's only supposed to be a league average hitter, and he's not even that right now. Like, he's below league average in every major offensive category. The guy just can't find a hit in a paper bag right now. It's just awful.
Here's the line: 203, 277, 331 OPS at 609, 4 swipes, 15 ribbies, 5 home runs. That's awful.
Yeah, it's just, it's not what you need out of a guy like that. And, Bellinger has been bad. Seiya has been bad. I mean, Seiya last night, he gave up. He misread a ball either last night or yesterday or Saturday, and 3 runs scored off of it. And then he goes and hits a grand slam. So he's got a +1 run differential himself, but you can't be missing that. And he's been making a lot of mistakes in right field. It's just been dreadful. all the way around. This looks like, a Cubs team of before the KB and Rizzo years. Like it is bad. It is really bad.
Yeah,
Playing it's really disappointing. And then they make so many base running mistakes. And the biggest mistake I could find on Friday from a management decision. This is the first time I've had a very serious disagreement with Craig Counsell.
oh boy.
There are two guys on base. You get the first two guys on base in the bottom of the ninth inning, and you're down by one, and you have Patrick Wisdom coming to the plate. Now it is coming to the plate against a righty. There's nobody out, and he doesn't do well against righties. I get it, but you pinch hit for him with Nick Madrigal.
Madrigal? Really?
Yeah. Madrigal pitch hits. He goes to attempt a bunt, or doesn't attempt to bunt the first pitch. The second pitch, he gets hit in the hand, but it also hit the bottom of the bat. So they called it a foul ball. Which, again, I'm confused by that whole thing, but whatever. He ends up getting on base, and then he tries to score from first on a hit to left field, and the cutoff guy for the throw is Ellie De La Cruz. So, for whatever reason, Willie Harris sent Madrigal, and he got smoked by 20 feet. Like, it was not close. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, at least Patrick Wisdom would have been like, yeah, no, I'm going to stop at third. I don't care what this guy says. Like, I'm not making it. It's Ellie De La Cruz. I'm not even going to try this.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody runs on De La Cruz. Dude's got a cannon.
Yeah, I mean, it was just pathetic to see that transpire, and you're just like, what the heck is going on here? And then to lose the game that way, basically, because Bellinger was up next, and all he has to do is stay on third base with one out, and Bellinger hits a sac fly, and you win the ball game, or you tie the game, I guess. But like, and then Bellinger swings at the first pitch because there's two outs, and it's a pop fly to left field, and the game's over. Like it's the worst way for that game to end, and it's just like, enough with the stupid. Can we please stop with the stupid? Like, you're depending on some guys who are you're hoping that they hit, and that's basically what you're depending on and relying on with Michael Busch. You're trying to put Christopher Morel into the cleanup role, and that's just not something that he's not performing well enough in that high pressure situation right now. He's doing great at bats, but he's not hitting the ball. Like, he's drawing walks and stuff, but you'd love to hit him somewhere else, but where are you going to hit him? And they finally brought PCA back up with all this crap going on, and it's just like, he's a shot in the arm for them because he doesn't miss anything in the field, and he's finally hitting the ball. So, Madrigal finally is gone. David Bodie is up as of yesterday, or Sunday rather, who was a journeyman for the Cubs years ago, and finally is getting another shot because he's been hitting the ball really well in Iowa. So, like, they're giving some guys some opportunities here, but like, they made the same mistakes this year that they made last year, letting guys run longer than they should have.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
I get it. All right. Well, so that's that. Hopefully your fortunes turn on you, man, because you need something.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
All right. So last week, Toronto City Connect jerseys released. The whole idea, they're calling these night mode, and the tagline is the skyline, the neighborhoods, the people, the heartbeat of the city. So it looks like the batting helmets are black matte, but the double layered T with the maple leaf in the middle is a 3D print on top of that. The uniform is an extremely dark navy blue. I thought it was black the first time I saw it, but I guess it technically is navy. You have Toronto across the chest. You've got the skyline in a lighter blue sublimated across it. My initial reaction when I saw these, Joe, was that good job, Nike made another uniform where you're not going to see shit. Like the fact that the brightest thing on the chest is the swoosh is a problem.
Yeah.
Like I understand it's not football. If the numbers and the names aren't immediately recognizable, it's okay because positions are somewhat fixed. But it'd be nice to actually be able to, I don't know, see.
Yeah.
I was looking at the videos from the actual gameplay. If you're more than a couple feet away, you can't read the numbers, you can't read the name, and you can barely see the freaking city name. Like somebody showed a video and pictures from the game where they were. Let's see, he was. How far back did he say he was? Section 133, row 27. So not bad seats at all. Like I would be. I've been to that stadium one time, and that would be a great place to see a game. He brought a friend with him who is a graphic designer and a former athlete, and is very interested in uniforms. And from their seats, they were close enough to the players that they could, they should have been able to determine if any of the elements were visible. None of them were. He said the whole uniform looked black from head to toe. His friend confirmed that nothing was legible. You might be lucky to discern if a player's number was 1 digit or 2. He said plenty of people were wearing the new merch, and even from a foot away, the jersey looked black. His friend gave him 2 thumbs down. He gave it 1. So night mode at the Dome is not really a rousing success. And honestly, Joe, when I saw the videos and whatnot, I wasn't impressed either. Like, sure, the zoomed in telephoto lens shots look great, where you look like you're a foot away from the guy. But when you're looking at live view, it's like watching Cincinnati. You can't tell who the hell's who.
Yeah, this seems like a really bad miss on Toronto's part and Nike's part here. If you're gonna do dark elements, then it's got to be a lighter background so that stuff actually shows up. And again, yeah, it's great for merch, it's great for the close-up, pictures, but you can't see anything on the stinking field. And if you can't see anything on the field, then what's the point? Like,
yeah, there is no point.
It's as bad as the Wrigleyville uniforms are, at least Wrigleyville's in gray, so you can actually read it.
And you can see the players' numbers, and you can see their names.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me like the trying to go with 2 dark colors is just not working.
And what's up with all the monotone uniforms with the City Connect this year?
I don't
Why
know.
are so many of them like that?
I mean, I will say this, that like the Detroit uni was really neat because it was mostly black, but it had, Detroit elements to it with the blue and some of that. But like, this thing where the entire uniform is one color besides the logos and stuff, like it's just not working.
No, the only time a baseball uniform should be one color is if it's a white top and white pants.
Yeah.
That's it. Or gray and gray. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems to me like this is a miss on Nike's part for sure.
Which I know we're both totally shocked and unexpectedly shocked that Nike would screw up this bad. Who would have thought?
I mean, look, they had a track record of a couple of really good ones recently with Detroit, with
New York.
With New York. And so it was like, okay, well, they're doing a little bit better with this, and then this time you're like, what's the point of it? Like,
yeah, the Guardians had a good one. Tampa Bay, if they would have made it legible and not made the background so busy, would have been a really nice one this year.
Yeah, if they had made the numbers all a neon color, it would have been that would have changed everything about that look.
And that would have been a nice harken back to the early days of the Rays with the rainbow
Right.
helmet too.
Right. So I mean, they've gotten close with some of these, and they've gotten really good with some of these, and then this is another one where you're like, you know, this should never have been done, and this looks. I mean, the Dodger all blue one is always going to be the worst, probably, but this is down near the bottom.
Yeah,
like this is
definitely bottom third.
Yeah, this is bad. I mean, even the Cardinals one, as much as I hated that one, is better than this.
That was hideous, dude. That was it. We knew it was going to happen. I mean, St. Louis is such a great uniform set on its own. We knew that the City Connect was going to be terrible.
Yeah.
You have a classic look and you try and tweak it. It's never going to look as good as the original. But
no, definitely.
It looked like they almost airmailed it as badly as the Dodgers did.
It was just awful.
So coming up will be Minnesota. It's going to be unveiled next Monday, so we'll talk about that next week. It will debut on June 14th. The Dodger veiling date still has not been released. It is scheduled to be debuted on the field June 21st. Apparently, there is a second leak. A Dodger City Connect jersey was seen at Citi Field. Here, Joe, give me a second. I'll share my screen so you can see it. It's from UniWatch, so it probably legit.
It's not Minnesota next week, is it? They already had a set.
Yes, it is. Yeah, the Twins.
Yeah,
no, the Twins got a whole new uniform set last year.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yep. I know it's confusing.
Yeah.
So here you go, Joe. So this is what somebody was wearing at the at a Mets Dodgers game last week. I'm not sure how that got released, but here's some of the details. Updated stylized LED, looks like confetti background, and at least the Los Angeles looks better this time. That's all I have to say about that. So again, this is a potential leak, but it seems from everything that's come out so far seems to be legitimate. Let's be real. The Dodgers did so bad the first time, it couldn't have gotten any worse. Could only get.
And here's what I don't understand about all this is that we've got intrepid journalists who are getting ahead of the teams on this one. Like, if the stuff is out there and someone can snag a picture and start leaking it around, why don't we just let the teams just release it?
Well, and was it Tampa Bay or was it Detroit? One of the two releases earlier this year, because the fan leaked it early. They said, "All right, to hell with it, guys. These are the new jerseys. Let's go!" Like, come on, just do it.
Pretty sure it was Tampa Bay. And then the other thing too was that, like, we're seeing leaks of the hats, like the Friday or Thursday before the uniform comes out from somebody somewhere, and it's just like, if you're gonna have this stuff out there and be available to buy, just release the stinking uniform.
And if somebody screwed up and made it available when they shouldn't have, then you just fire the torpedo and say to hell with it.
Well, and that's clearly what's happening here, because somebody's taking the stuff home from work or whatever and then selling it, and then someone takes a picture of it, and that's the way it goes. So, like, if this stuff's going to keep happening, it's like you might as well just not try to do these special things and just release the stuff. Like,
yeah, that would be the most logical thing, but of course it won't happen because it's the most logical thing. All right, Joe, let's move it along. In a much, much, much overdue happening, MLB has finally incorporated Negro League statistics, and the record book has been shaken up. The new all-time Major League Baseball career leader on batting average is Josh Gibson at 372, surpassing Ty Cobb's 367. So the Negro League records accounted for more than 2,300 players. This was a 3-year research project that was undertaken before they did all of this. His 466 average for the 1943 Homestead Grays becomes the single-season standard, followed by Charlie Chino Smith's 451 for the 1929 New York Lincoln Giants. And they overtook the 440 by Hugh Duffy for the National League Boston team back in 1894, which did eventually become the Braves, if I remember right. Gibson also became the career leader in slugging at 718 and OPS at 1.177, moving ahead of Babe Ruth, who was at 690 and 1.164. Manfred said, "It's a show of respect for great players who performed in the Negro Leagues due to circumstances beyond their control, and once those circumstances changed, demonstrated that they were truly major leaguers. Maybe the single biggest factor was the success of players who played in the Negro Leagues and then came to the big leagues." So again, special committee that decided, first of all, back in 1969 to recognize 6 major leagues dating back to 1876, the National, which was launched in 1876, the American in 1901, the American Association in 1882 to 1891, the Union Association in 84, the Players League in 1890, the Federal League from 1914 to 1915, and the only league they really excluded was the National Association, which played from 1871 to 75 due to erratic scheduling and procedures. So this was the committee, Joe, that looked into this. It was a 17-person committee that was loaded down with Negro League experts and statisticians. And the thing that really got the ball rolling on this was 2020 was the shortened 2020 season. I mean, if we're going to count those, if we're going to count that season in the record books, then really that was the last barrier that was in the Negro League's way of being added, because that was the big argument. They played shorter. A lot of those leagues played shorter seasons. Well, the 2020 season was shorter than any of those seasons, so why not? And honestly, Joe, I'm glad they did it. It's good to shake things up every now and then. They left the standards for leaders the same as for the other leagues, so 3.1 plate appearances or 1 inning for each game played by a player's team. Gibson's 974 and slugging in 37 became the season record. Barry Bonds' 863 in 2001 dropped all the way down to 5th. Also trailing Mules Suttles, who had 877 and 26, and Gibson's 871 and 43. And, it's Bonds had the OPS record of 1.421. That's now 3rd behind Gibson's 1.474 and 1.435. Willie Mays gained 10 hits from his time with the Birmingham Black Barons. Manny Minoso has now surpassed 2,000 hits, getting credit for the 150 he had with the New York Cubans. Jackie was credited with 49 hits from his 1945 season with the Kansas City Monarchs. Satchel Paige gained 28 wins, raising his total to 125. So, I love that they did all of this, honestly. It's long overdue for the men that played in the Negro Leagues to have their records and accomplishments, celebrated with Major League Baseballs. Because as much as I hate to say it, Manfred was right in his statement. It is not the fault of those players. They played in a time when the leagues weren't integrated, and they shouldn't be penalized for it. And it's not like they were facing substandard competition. 2,300 players added to the record books, or added to the rolls of the all-time players. I mean, Satchel Paige was arguably one of the greatest pitchers to ever play the game. The stories about him are just absolutely legendary, from his blazing fastball to all the crazy junk pitches he could throw. So it's not like, and he's not the only good pitcher that played in the Negro Leagues, of course. So personally, I'm really happy to see all these new records put in. Something I'd like us to do next week, and I'll let Ron and Jason know. We should we should get some names together and make an all-time Negro Leagues team, and I'm not going to do a draft like we did with the divisions. None of us know enough about the players who played, but we should all be able to find top 4, top 5 at each position and decide who we think should be the all-time team. So I thought something fun for us to do next week, because knock on wood, nothing crazy is going to happen this week, other than maybe Atlanta remembering how to hit. So long overdue. I was quite happy to see that news released, that baseball finally decided to do that. All right, and then in some less happy news, which I know didn't surprise you as much, perhaps, as maybe some other people, Padres infielder Tucupita Marcano is facing a potential lifetime ban for betting on baseball after Major League Baseball received information that he wagered on games involving the Pittsburgh Pirates when he was with the team last season. He has not been formally penalized yet, but as you know, Rule 21 explicitly states that a player who bets on games involving his own teams is subject to a lifetime ban, aka Pete Rose, and why he is to this day not reinstated and will not be reinstated.
I'm just waiting for I'm just waiting for it with my interpreter.
There it is.
Look, should we be beginning against for or against our own teams? No. But this news segment on ESPN was probably brought to you by DraftKings, which is also stupid.
Yeah.
There are sports books at every freaking MLB stadium now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you expect me to believe that Ohtani wasn't betting on the game and didn't know about the money and didn't know about betting on stuff, this seems to me like they're just trying to cover a lot of stuff and just kind of be like, okay, we've punished somebody for betting, and it's like, okay, you're conveniently telling me that you think I should believe that Ohtani had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And now we've got somebody who's going down. And again, MLB Network or whatever, sports news channel you were watching probably sponsored their story with DraftKings or FanDuel or something like that. Like, do I think guys should be betting, against their own team? No, of course not.
Especially not managers. And that's the fact that Pete Rose did it as a manager really is where I will never be okay with Pete Rose being reinstated before he dies, because a manager has so much control of how a game goes by making changes in the field with the lineup and with your pitchers. And the fact that he bet against his team at time, no, absolutely not. Greatest slap single hitter of all time? Sure. Hall of Fame? Should be, but by his own choices, he's not.
Well, and I mean that opens up another can of worms with Rose, is because it's like, okay, can we put him in as a player because he was clearly a Hall of Fame player?
He was, but he was still gambling on and against the Reds while he was playing too.
Okay, I mean I'm not saying that it's a great thing that it's happening, but we can't pretend that the gambling's not in the sport.
No, complete agreement. Yeah,
the
hypocrisy is well noted.
Every stadium in the country, and Wrigley included, has a sports book outside. Like, can we stop pretending that this is a clean game that people think that it is, or that they want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then the image that they've tried to keep repairing since 1920. I mean, look, there's going to be gambling. Do I think it's right that they gamble on themselves? No, I don't. Do I understand it? Sometimes. There's a lot of bets in the Ohtani deal. I have to find. I took screenshots of it weeks ago when that first came out. But there's a lot of bets on the Ohtani that were placed with that bookie by his interpreter, I guess, that you can go, okay, well, he bet they bet for this and Shohei did that. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of that where you're like, okay, one game, fine. 5-6 games, there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
Like, it's prevalent in the game, and I'm not surprised that more guys are going down for it. But it seems convenient right now that the Ohtani stuff has died down, that we found somebody who's bet on baseball this time and getting banned.
Jump on. And also remember too, David Fletcher, currently with Atlanta, although down in the minors right now. Mm-hmm. He bet on sports, the same illegal bookmaker that took the bets from Mizuhara. I don't remember if Fletcher's was on baseball or if it was just other sports-based betting. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's something that's it seems like something's boiling to a head. That's the best way I can put it.
All I can say is, if you're a Cub player, bet against the Brewers when you're not playing the Brewers, and nobody will care. Like, I mean, there's a reason, half of the baseball podcast, half of the team podcast have a sponsor, at least one, that is booking, whether it's Prize Picks, whether it's, a sports book. Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is. All right, so that's that. I'm not, like I said, I didn't watch any baseball last week. I'm not going to talk about Atlanta's horrible week, and that's okay with me. At least they took 2 out of 3 from the A's, and that's all I'm gonna say for baseball last week in Atlanta, because it was a rough week. From what I was reading about. I will note that Adam Duvall is having fun with the fans behind him in right field now that he has been there most of the time since Acuna got injured. They set up a beer pyramid for him about 4 or 5 rows up in the chop house. And at the end of warmups, he tossed the ball up and knocked down the pyramid, which, hey, that's great. I love it when the outfielders have fun with the fans. Baseball's about, it's supposed to be a good experience for the fans, man. And that's the kind of thing I love to see. So there, one good thing about the Braves this past week. Let's move on from that. Because that's about all it was. I was kind of hoping I was going to look a little better in our bet, Joe, but I'm only 4 games up on you right now. So
Yeah.
I really do need Atlanta to kind of kick it into gear before I owe you a good bottle of whiskey at the end of the year.
You know what? That straight up bet you took, man. That's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah, I mean that was in the pre everybody getting hurt, losing Strider, But then again, the Cubbies were the Cubbies over this last month, so maybe it wasn't such a bad bet. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I have my doubts. I do. So Jason and Ron are with us tonight. They were at Philly tonight for the game. I'll let them talk about it next week, but I will note that Rhys Hoskins did hit a home run in his return to Philadelphia. So that was great to see. And I'm glad. I know Rhys is one of Ron's favorite players, so I'm really glad that Ron was there and was able to see Rhys jack one. So would have been nice if the Phillies would have lost, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, let's face it, you need all the help you can get.
Yeah, we're 7 games back, right? I mean, we're 5 clear. We're 5 clear in the wild card right now, so playoff position's not really a problem for Atlanta right now. They're going to be in. But they need to get in gear right now. So May is gone. It's time for late first half, second half Atlanta to kick into high gear like they normally do.
Yeah, and you talked about how far back things are. Like we talked about the Cubs, they're in 3rd place and they're only 2.5 games out of the basement, away from the basement. Like it's bad, man.
Yeah. Well, the rest of the NL East is performing rather horribly. I mean, even after Washington took 3 out of 4 from Atlanta on the road, they're still 13 and a half out. The Mets are 17 out. The Marlins are 20 and a half games out. I mean, that's terrible, man. Although, you know what? I don't feel bad for the Marlins in the slightest because they shouldn't have screwed over Kim Ng. And I hope the curse of Kim Ng means that until they make right by her, they never win another World Series and are perpetually terrible. I'll be okay with that. Won't bother me one bit.
All they have to do is win the wild card. They can't. If they win the division, don't bet on them to win the World Series ever.
That's true. If
they make it as a wild card, then that's the safe bet.
Yeah, it's definitely always a safer bet. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think Jason sent it down on the farm this week, did he?
No, he did not.
All right. So we will skip down on the farm because I also did not take the time to look up any minor league stats for the week. But I do. All I'm going to say is this. Follow some of the AAA and AA teams. Follow their social media feeds because there's a whole lot of them that put out some funny stuff just about every day. I know Gwinnett likes to poke fun at the team, at how the team is doing, and also at the teams that they're playing, and it's pretty good. I highly recommend it. Not just Gwinnett, a lot of the teams do that, but I highly recommend if you need a good laugh, just look at the minor league baseball teams' feeds. It's always a good time.
The other thing you should do with regards to the minor league teams is check out the promos they're doing. Some of these teams are doing hilarious promos. The one in particular I saw today, it is 50 years. Tomorrow is 50 years since Cleveland did a game where they did 10-cent beer night at the ballpark. And
I'm sure that ended well.
yeah, and the Portland Pickles are doing 10-cent beer night tomorrow night at their ballpark. So if you're in Oregon, I think it's Oregon. If you're in the area of the Portland Pickles, have a good time tomorrow night.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at Lehigh Valley. We've talked a lot about some of the fun promotions where they'll change their names around for some games. Just for I'm just looking at June's schedule here. They've got a pickleball night scheduled. They got Diggity night scheduled. They've got Twisted Thursday happy hour. They've got Marvel Defenders of the Diamond night. They've got Princess and Pirates Day. Like, the minor league teams know how to have fun. And you should always, support the minor league teams that are local to you. They could always use the extra support locally at the ballparks, but they have more fun. Like, baseball is so fun to watch at these minor league teams, unless you're going to a Barnstormers game and you have to look at fake dirt. But the promotions are always a blast. Yes, I'm going to keep railing on the Barnstormers until the end of the season, maybe even longer, as I made sure to tag them in Jason's post earlier tonight about how much nicer the field looks when it's real grass and real dirt. Yes, I did. Do I have any shame about it? No, I do
No,
not.
you do not.
Nor will I ever. All right, Joe. Let's take a look here. Shall we move into the? Is it time to move into the hot hitters, or did you have something else you wanted to go through first?
One other thing I just wanted to cover real quick. I mentioned it last week on the show. There was the Birmingham Southern Division III team. They on Friday they had Thursday or Friday they had a walk-off homer the day after the school closed. They had a walk-off homer to extend their playoff, their Division III playoff streak, which unfortunately ended last night. They had to lead for a while, and then it just kind of the team came back all the way. The other team they were playing.
Yeah, they had like a 5 or 6 run lead, and it was just a chip away, two runs here, a run there, 3 runs there, and
they were up 10-5 through 6, and the bats just went ice cold. Wisconsin Whitewater is the team they played on Sunday, and they scored 2 runs in the 7th, 3 in the 8th, and then a leadoff walk-off homer in the 9th. The school announced it was closing in March, and it was due to some financial issues that the school ran into. The guy who's the head coach of this program, Jay Weisberg, he had been their head coach since 2007.
Wow,
long time with the program. The article I was looking at said that he encouraged the players to play freely, and they did just that, getting all the way into the Division III championship tournament. So, it's a shame that things have gone this way, but I'm glad that they were able to make something special out of a difficult moment. So a hat tip to the Panthers of Birmingham Southern. We'll miss you, but I think you gave people some good hope in that area with all the things that were happening. So just wanted to highlight that and kind of catch everybody up on that. I mentioned that they'd found a way to get into the tournament last week, and then unfortunately they lost on Sunday. So
yeah, too bad. Hell of a run.
Yeah,
that's the kind of Cinderella story you can't help but root for. It's too bad they ended like that. All right, so let's move it into the hot list for this week. So let's see here. For me, I think my top hitter for the week is going to be. I haven't done him in a while. Let's all rise for the great Aaron Judge. Last week, 364 average with a 482 OBP and a 909 slugging, 22 at bats. He had 6 runs, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 8 hits, 5 walks, 8 strikeouts. So not a bad week by Mr. Judge by any small means. Joe, who's your top hitter?
Top hitter for me is another Yankee, Juan Soto, who The line this week was 435, 500, a 1,000 slug, and a 1,500 OPS. 7 runs on 10 hits, 2 triples, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts.
Yeah, it's a good week.
Yeah. A big reason the Yankees are where they are right now. Those 2 guys for sure.
How about Moneyball?
Moneyball is Riley Green from the Detroit Tigers. This week, his slash line was 409, 500, 636, and OPS of 1136. 6 runs on 9 hits, 2 doubles, a home run, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, and 2 stolen bases. So a good week for them and a good reason that the Tigers have continued to kind of try to hold serve at least in the AL Central.
Yep, not bad. All righty, let me get the pictures pulled up here because for some reason my page didn't load while you were talking. There it goes. Love it. It's always fun. All right, so you took him. All right, so I think for me, top pitcher of the past week, let's head out to Seattle. Let's go cross country here. We're going to talk about Bryce Miller. He had 2 starts, went 2-0, only 12 innings, but he struck out 15, an ERA of 1.5, a whip of 0.92, 2 earned runs, 8 hits, 3 walks. Not a bad week at all. Who is your top pitcher of the week, Joe?
Top pitcher for me, Gavin Stone with the Dodgers, as much as it pains me to say that. 2-0 in his 2 starts, 12 innings, 7 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 13 strikeouts. To have 7 hits, to scatter 7 hits and not generate any, or not get any runs across, a good week for him. His whip was 0.75, the batting average against a 167.
Good week. All right, Joe, who's the adulting reliever of the week?
The adulting reliever is, and Houston needed some good news this week, Brian Abreu from Houston. 4 appearances this week, and no decisions in any of this. So he didn't get any wins, losses, or saves. But in the 4 appearances, he went 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. So over the aggregate, the whip was a 1.25, which sounds high, but over that many appearances, I think a nice job for him. And the batting average against a 0.214. So, yeah, not the best at those 2 numbers, but a big reason that Houston was able to kind of stem the flow a little bit this week after really struggling for the better part of a month and a half.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, for hot teams, well, I can tell you 2 teams that absolutely belong nowhere near the hot list, and that would be the Chicago White Sox on their 11-game losing streak, and the Angels, who are on a 5-game losing streak and are 2-8 over their last 10. I think my 2 hot teams this week are going to come out of the AL East. The Yankees 8-2 on the last 10 with a 5-game winning streak, and the Orioles also 8-2 over their last 10 as well.
Yeah, mine were, as much as it pains me to say it, Milwaukee, winners of 5 straight, 8-2 in the last 10. And Cleveland had a decent week, and Seattle had a really decent week too, to try to hold serve in that AL West division, particularly with the way Houston has started to play a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. All right, looking at the week ahead. So Atlanta coming off that horrendous road stretch. They have a 2-game stupid mini series in Boston, Fried versus Crawford, Schwellenbach versus Pivetta. And then once again, we're playing the Nationals again, this time in Washington. 4 at the Nationals because, good God, we've got to do better than last time. Lopez versus Parker, Sale versus Irvin, Morton versus Gore, Fried versus Williams on Sunday. And then the road trip will continue in Baltimore before they finally get a chance to come home again. So decent little road chunk right here for the Braves. Time to turn it around, boys. That's all I'm going to say. For the Cubbies coming up this week, Joe, you guys have, again, as you alluded to, 2 versus the White Sox where somebody's got to win. Emananga versus Flexen, Tyone versus Fetty. And then for your weekend road series, 4 at the Reds, Assad versus Green, Steele versus Lodolo, Brown versus Abbott, and Emananga versus Montes. So we'll be curious to see if Green can actually find the strike zone for once, because that's not always common for him.
Yeah, it's something that just I don't understand the way that they've done it now, where they've got this big chunk of back-to-back series almost with teams in their division. So like, I just don't quite get it. I mean, I know we had some of that when they played 18 games against each other, but it was never like this.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's really jumbled up, and to me, it just doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, dumb as hell.
Hopefully, the second time the Cubs play the Reds, they show up better than they did this weekend, and
we'll see.
The White Sox are what the White Sox are, but the Cubs are not playing very good baseball either. So this is a city of lovable losers right now, and
yeah, it is.
I don't know what to make of it, to be truthful. The offense has to wake up. That's the biggest thing. The defense has to stop being stupid, and the pitching has to return to what it's been doing for the last couple of weeks. I mean, that's really all there is to it.
Yep, agreed. All right, for the Phillies this week, they started the series with Milwaukee and did win tonight 3-1. Wheeler took the win there over Wilson. Tomorrow night, you have Sanchez versus Rhea, and then Nola versus TBD. And then the Phillies have a couple days off to travel to London for the 2-game international series with the Mets. They are considered the home team, although it is, of course, in a neutral location in London. Suarez versus Manea and Walker versus Quintana. Again, Ranger, it's TBD at this point. Turnbull will go if Ranger is not able to. And then that's a short week for the Phillies because of the international series. It's nice to have the 2 days off leading in, but only one day coming back. Yeah, good job, MLB. Anyway, we've bitched about the schedule enough for one night. And then for the Orioles this week, they have, here it is. They opened a 4-game with Toronto tonight. They won 7-2. Tomorrow night is Burns versus TBD, Suarez versus Barrio, Bradish versus Kikuchi. And then they have a 4-gamer with Tampa Bay that bleeds into Monday next week. So they're on the road for the 8 straight. Irvin versus Savale, Rodriguez versus Bradley, Burns versus Little, Suarez versus Pepio next Monday. So that's what's happening with the local teams and our teams. We'll see. It's time for some teams to wake up. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it would be a shame if Ranger can't go in London, because that series deserves the best pitcher on the Phillies and the best pitcher in the league, really, being able to make that appearance. The biggest thing too with the Orioles is how do they respond with the pitching injuries last week that were announced, where John Means and Tyler Wells are both going to be out the rest of the year with UCL repairs again. For Means, it's a second time. For Wells, I don't know for sure. But they did promote the second baseman today because Mateo went on a concussion IL. So, an embarrassment of riches that the Orioles have. And it's unfortunate they have to use it, but it's also great that they have it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I think if you're an Orioles fan is can the offense do enough that your pitching doesn't have to be perfect, because that's going to be a huge difference maker for the success of the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
If those younger guys who are getting thrown into that position don't have to be perfect.
Absolutely. All right, guys, you can find audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Apple Podcast, pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. Follow us on the Facebook page, facebook.com/$dogsandbeer. Twitter's at DDAB_podcast. Along with all 4 of us, I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe's at Jolton Joe35. Ron is at Dipner Ron. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by the Baron Barbershop over in Mannheim. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. We'll be back next week.